Hey guys, it's Edwin here, and today we're going to talk about what are the best co-parenting tips when it comes to parenting with a narcissistic ex. You see, like the end of any relationship is such a painful experience, but when kids are added to the picture, it complicates the situation. As in one or the other, you will not avoid your narcissistic ex. For a normal relationship where both parents had mutual interest in the child's well-being, growth, and development, they can decide to peacefully co-parent. This is where the two parents agree on how they will mutually meet the child's needs and welfare, like educational needs, extracurricular activities. But this can only happen when the two parties had mutual respect for one another and have this form of cooperation. And that's why it's a bit complicated when it comes to co-parenting with someone with narcissistic traits, because they lack that level of cooperation and friendliness. That's why when it comes to parenting with a narcissistic ex, the best approach is what is called parallel parenting. Parallel parenting is an approach where there is minimized contact between the parents, but they coordinate on the efforts to support the children's upbringing and welfare. Parallel parenting is the best choice when it comes to dealing with an act, because it reduces the probability of you falling back to the same cycle of abuse. It's also good to be aware that the fact that you have an agreement with a narcissist or you have this parenting plan together does not mean that they've stopped their mischievous ways. They'll still keep trying to control and manipulate you, because all they want is to fulfill their needs. That's why there are a number of issues which will arise when it comes to parenting with a narcissist. And I'm going to share with you some of the issues. Some of the issues which will come about because of co-parenting with a toxic ex or a narcissistic ex are things like empty promises and broken promises to you and your kids. They might promise you to do something but they won't do it. Talking ill and peddling lies about you to the kids, or doing opposite of what you tell them to do, using the kids to directly or indirectly pass a message across. They can also act as if they are just participants in that parenting plan, and it's not their obligation to do it. They just do it because when they feel like. Of course, they will also be competing to win the child's affection and love through expensive gifts and treats. And at times they may even call you or text you at odd hours with the pretense of just checking up on the kids. And then of course they will do the opposite of what you expect them to do for the kids. They may of course buy kids junk food and other unhealthy habits. Let's say watching TV, they will do the opposite of what you tell them to do. And of course they will blame you for the kids' shortcomings. Let's say if your kids get lower grades or the C's, you are the one who will be blamed for those. You will also experience last-minute changes in schedule and spontaneous cancellations. They might also at times come to your home unannounced, especially if you don't have good boundaries. Those are just some of the many issues which will make it really hard for you to successfully parent with a narcissistic ex. That's why being one step ahead of the game is very important in order for you to pull this off. This will involve you doing something you would have never thought of. Like, you have to really be ahead of the game. You have to really understand these issues, and then also understand how you can cope with these issues. Because you are dealing with a serial manipulator, you're not dealing with a typical ex partner. So in this video, I'm going to share with you some of the tips you can use to successfully co-parent with a narcissist, or to successfully parallel parent. The first thing to do when co-parenting with a narcissist is to embrace email communication instead of instant messaging and phone calls. This is because the more you interact with them, they will try to hurt you with their verbally abusive ways. That's why email communication is the best way to go. When you want to communicate with them, you just send them a very, very detailed email with everything you want to tell them. Make it really as official as if you are sending this email to a busy CEO somewhere. Like, do not bloat it with unnecessary details. Just send the necessary details in that email. If it's appointments, if this is the time they have to pick the kids, if it's something it's necessary for you to communicate with them, just send it in that email. And also, one thing about email, do not turn this email also to be like a form of instant messaging. just discipline yourself in such a way that you'll just be checking those emails at a specific time. If you'll be checking the emails at 6 p.m., just check them at 6 p.m. so that they will not take you in these round and round conversations with no end. Also, the beauty of email is that they will provide narcissists with a kind of discipline because they cannot intimidate you via email, because they know that with email they can be used as evidence in court of law. The other thing also is something which is written, even if someone even if someone abuses you through writing, it does not convey the same emotion as when someone abuses you through verbally. Like with email you will experience less gaslighting, but with verbal communication you will experience more gaslighting, because with email you have evidence and everything. With verbal abuse you might feel that maybe you forgot. So that's why email is the best, as it will also provide a way of documenting your conversations. Embrace email communication, no phone calls, no instant messaging. The other way that will help you co-parent successfully with a NARC is to have zero expectations of what they are supposed to do. Do not have this feeling of how can they not do this, they should do this. No, that does not happen when you are parenting with a NARC. You just have to be prepared on some of the great and unnatural extents they will go to satisfy their needs. They might leave the kids alone in the house and go for a party, or they might do drugs in front of the kids, or they may just do things which does not really uplift the kids' welfare. They might delay sending child support, or they might delay paying even essential bills, or they might remove the kids from medical insurance. That's why it's good not to dwell so much on the things they do, because you will never fully understand and it will just keep you constantly worried. This will mean that you have to focus on only those situations you can control. This can be a very, very hard pill to chew, but that's how this parenting will be successful. No amount of how can they do this, how can they not take their kids to, how can someone do this to their kids? No. If you have more expectations on what they're supposed to do, you are just priming yourself for disappointment. So the best way is have zero expectations, and then be prepared also for those disappointments, so that you can come up with a way to counter those disappointments. The harsh thing about this is that it might also involve you just not obsessively thinking about what may be going on with your kids when they are with the narcissist, and just trust that everything will be okay, because there's nothing more you can do. When they're with the narcissist, there's nothing more you can do. It can be harsh, but there's nothing more you can do. But please note, if you suspect that there's any kind of physical or sexual abuse, you should of course report it immediately. Yeah, but aside from that, when your kids are with the narcissist, there's nothing more you can do. The other thing that will keep you safe when you are co-parenting with a narcissist is to set and uphold clear boundaries. This will mean that you communicate clearly on things you cannot tolerate and things you can tolerate. This is because a narcissist will always try and walk over you. That's why the best way to handle them is to be assertive and stand your ground on things you cannot tolerate from them. This can be something like not letting them into your home, or hanging up when they try to manipulate you, or just not entertaining last minute change in schedule, or just plainly denying when they want a favor from you which goes against your parenting plan. As long as you are still in communication with them, they will always try to control you and manipulate you and work over your boundaries. So your boundaries will be there to protect you from their manipulative gimmicks. The other way to successfully co-parent with a narcissist is to always be the better parent. The challenge with parenting with a narcissist is the fact that there is no mutual cooperation when it comes to meeting the kids' welfare, and that's why you always need to step up to be the better parent in all scenarios. This means that you become the caring parent who listens to their kids, who acknowledges their feelings, and you just live your life instead that you are always in the side of the kids. You should be focusing so much on nurturing your kids as much as possible, without even thinking of what the other party is supposed to do, without thinking of having thoughts like, why am I doing this every time? Why not? Why doesn't she or he do it? Like, just be the one who really steps up. Yeah, this will also mean like working on yourself, or also working on yourself to the point that the anger you have over your narcissistic ex does not trickle down to how you take care of your kids. Because of course it will be you will be frustrated in this situation, you will be disappointed, but find better ways to channel that anger and not channeling that anger to your kids. That's how it means to be the better parent. Also, being a better parent means that you avoid talking ill about your ex-partner in front of your kids. You see, something about the kids is, if you talk about your ex in front of them, it will lead to frustration, confusion, and resentment in them, because they'll be like, now who do we talk to? Who will listen to us? You need to be a great role model by showing this kind of maturity and emotional control, since your children are already dealing with enough chaos. Of course, as I said, you can find better ways to channel that frustration. And something about the truth is, your kids will eventually see your ex for who they are. They might not see them immediately because of their manipulative ways, but they will see your ex for who they are. Just be that loving partner, listen to them, don't badmouth your ex, just focus on the kids, and that's something. You also have to understand that there will be a point where your kids will be manipulated to hate you or to think ill of you. But this is now the moment where you just have to stand up and realize that your kids are also victim of a manipulative dynamic, and stand up as that caring and loving parent without hating on your kids, because your kids are just innocent. Last thing to do when it comes to parenting with a narc is to always document everything. Document your visitations, doctor's appointments, the money you receive from the narc, photographs of any dangerous activities your kids are involved in. You should be clear enough with everything surrounding your parenting schedule, as these written guidelines and documentation will help you mitigate the inevitable fights, and it will also make it easier to hold them accountable. Documentation will also prevent the narc from blaming you or gaslighting you on something, as it's well documented and anyone can see. This information can also be shared to legal authorities if need be, especially let's say if you need an adjustment. So document everything and keep it to yourself. And it's not a must for you to tell the narc that you are documenting everything. Just document for your own sake. Parenting with a narcissist is not an easy thing to do, but it's still possible to make it work, where like you meet your kids' needs and then also you take care of yourself. It's also good to know that the fact that you've separated with a narcissist does not mean that it's over for them. They will still try to win you back. This is because for them it's all about supplying their needs. That's why the only one who can keep a narcissist away from you is you. You need to be assertive and have your boundaries up to the point that they know that you are uncontrollable. Like, do not entertain any mischief. As the more you entertain any mischief, the more you will be drawing yourself back to the same cycle of abuse. So, as you have made the decision to leave that relationship, also commit to healing to the point that the narcissist does not trigger you and they cannot use anything to control you. And get to the point where you can see their manipulative tactics like 50 miles away, because you really know who they are. That's it from me today. And as always, heal and happy healing.